The cost of living in the UK has become one of the biggest challenges facing both British families and newcomers, with rising housing costs, energy bills, food prices, and everyday expenses affecting millions of people across the country. In today's episode of the English Right Now podcast, we're exploring what life really costs in modern Britain. My name is British English teacher Roy, and joining me is my dear friend Rob. Hello.
Hello, Roy. Hello. Nice. A gentle start.
Yes. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you very much. An interesting topic you've picked today, and one that affects us all, doesn't it? The cost of living.
Yes, it does. And when you're saying affects us all, I mean, it's not exclusively a UK problem. This is a problem facing families across the world. We need to really acknowledge that. But of course, we live here and we're talking about UK culture. And it's also to let people know that we're not immune to the same kind of thing, because we talk about the cost of living crisis. So the cost of living is the amount of money needed to maintain a certain standard of living. What have you noticed related to the subject?
Yes. Well, I'm not alone in saying this, that prices have risen a lot. They've shot up, haven't they? Quite a lot in a short space of time. I mean, obviously, the cost of things always go up, don't they? Over the years, they gradually get more expensive. But this time, it's kind of increased disproportionately, really. And, you know, a can of baked beans, for example, will cost like nearly 50% more. And you think, how is that? How is that? So I'm always counting the pennies, you know, making sure. I'm not saying I'm hard up or I'm broke or I'm not, but, you know, you can't complain, can you? We all have a decent standard of living generally, but even so, we have to cut corners, and count our pennies and make sure we can make our money go that little bit further.
Lots of good vocabulary that's not actually on the list. Cut corners is to kind of just find ways to make things easier or cheaper. Sometimes it can be quite a negative expression, like if a builder cuts corners, it means they're not doing the job satisfactorily. But in this case, you're talking about finding ways to live, and count the pennies is like this idea of looking at individual. It's like really analyzing.
If you go to the supermarket, for example, now you might buy the supermarket brand food rather than the more familiar or popular branded stuff. So you save money by buying own brand food, for example.
Own brand, absolutely. And another good expression, I think, is feel the pinch. So feel the pinch is this idea that you feel almost like squeezed in. You can feel the need to stop spending as much money. So, I mean, we're going to talk about the types of bills British people face, because a lot of people across the world, they have bills, but we have specific bills to the UK. But I must admit, in terms of the prices going up, it's got, the price of bread. I remember a loaf of bread not long ago was about 30-40p, and now we're looking £1.50 for some, more expensive, branded loaves of standard bread. I'm not talking about your fancy bread like you like, Rob, but but that's it, isn't it? And I think, prices have gone up. Why? You said something a moment ago and it triggered me. Why do prices have to go up?
Why? I don't know. That's a very good thing. But I'm not an economist, but I understand that it's healthy. It's healthy, isn't it, for prices to increase over time? Not dramatically, because it generates more money in the economy as prices go up and we pay for more things. There's more money going round. That's I mean, I say I'm not an economist, okay?
No,
but it's good for prices to go up, but not dramatically like they are at the moment. We have this word, don't we? Inflation, which measures the level of price rises. Low inflation is okay.
Price increases over time, isn't it?
But high inflation is bad, of course, when prices suddenly go like that, really expensive, because we haven't got the money to pay for things then.
And the thing is, I wonder as well, just going back to that point, I wonder if there's a psychological element that because prices go up, obviously wages need to go up, salaries need to go up. So wages are your weekly wage, salary is an annual salary. That's the difference in those two pieces of vocabulary. But I wonder if there's a psychological aspect, because you don't want to feel like people that were earning, if people earned £10,000 20 years ago, you want to be earning £50,000 now. But of course, prices need to go up. So it's always, everything's always going up. It doesn't mean you're necessarily winning. In fact, some people feel that the wages have stagnated. So we talk about wage stagnation, salary stagnation, and it's a period which salaries rise very little or not at all, and it hasn't sort of been at the same level as the prices. This is the problem. Prices are going up this far, and wages are going up.
And that sometimes leads to lots of strike action, industrial action, doesn't it? Because people say, their wages or salary aren't keeping up with the price of food and other things, and therefore they want a pay rise, and people go on strike, and it can be, you get a lot of unrest sometimes when that happens.
Yeah. And then if it's such a weird philosophy, because you need to print more money, and then there's more money, and then it's a very weird flow. But let's go back to talking about not necessarily our lack of economist views, but let's talk about the cost of living. Because one thing that people talk about is disposable income. So maybe 10, 20 years ago, disposable income, we had more of it, which is money left after taxes and all of your essential bills, your expenses have been paid. Disposable income is the stuff for like holiday, luxuries, the treats. I don't feel like I've got as much these days.
No, I might call it like spare cash, a bit of spare cash. You can go out for a meal, as you say, or buy yourself a new coat or something like that. That disposable income. You're right. Yeah, I don't have as much kind of spare change, loose money. Extra money to spend on things, because it is going on what we call the household bills, the bills to keep the house running, don't we? Yeah.
So the first thing to talk about is we have when we earn money and we're working for a company, we earn a salary. And from that, there are deductions. And the main two are, the two are tax, which goes to the government, and your national insurance, which pays for services like the NHS and things like this. And that comes out of your salary every month. It comes out automatically. So you may think you're earning £50,000 a year or £40,000 a year, but actually that's not your take-home salary. That's not your take-home. The take-home is the money that's left.
Yes, so, that's your gross. That's your gross pay, isn't it? Your gross salary, and after tax is your net salary. But as you said, we have different tax bands as well, depending on how much you earn. So if you earn within a certain amount, you pay 20% tax. If you earn over, is it roughly £50,000, then you start paying 40% tax. All those sort of things.
But only on the amounts above that amount.
Yes, not the whole lot.
We're not accountants, so like basically we understand roughly how it works. It's in bands. You get the first amount that's tax free, then there's a small amount of tax on the next amount, and blah blah blah, and so on, and it grows, so on. But that's tax and national insurance. We're not going to debate where our taxes are going, or national insurance is going, because everybody moans about, what am I paying my taxes for? And of course, self-employed and business owners, there are different rules again, and that's tax. But let's talk about household expenditure. This is the amount a household spends on living costs. So what bills do you have in your life?
Where shall I begin? Well, let's go for the obvious. First of all, I need to pay for electricity and gas, so my energy bills. I need to pay for water. To have water running in your house and draining the dirty water away, you have to pay water bills. I also have a bill for broadband to get my internet connection. I have to pay a bill for my mobile phone to have a mobile phone connection. Oh, shall I go on?
Please continue.
We also have to pay a tax. Well, you could call it a tax. Oh, be careful how I call it now. A TV license. We have to pay a fee to watch television.
If you watch television, that's a key point as well. You only pay it if you're choosing to watch live television. So some people don't have TV licenses. I think you've missed a big couple out, but go on, carry on.
Yeah, well, I'm not there yet, because I also have council tax. That's a big bill.
There we go. Yeah,
the council charges you a tax each month, which pays for services such as street lighting, rubbish collection, keeping the pavements tidy and clear, all kinds of things that affect your kind of local environment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And have I missed another one?
Yes, a big one.
A big one. Well, of course, there's my credit card bill, but that's not really a...
That's the biggest one. Yeah. No. No. So think about your house.
Oh, there's well, of course, yes, the big one. Yes, the very big is the mortgage.
The mortgage.
Tell us about the mortgage, Roy. You know all about this.
I do, don't I? So a mortgage is a loan used to buy a property. And it can be around 25 to 30 years that we take this loan out for. And it's basically a monthly amount that you pay to pay off your house loan. And in the UK at the moment, I think it's still the case that actually renting tends to be a bit more expensive than actually buying. It certainly was in the past for a lot of people. So it's actually better to buy. But the problem is, if you've got all those bills that you've mentioned, which even a renter would have, so you've got your council tax, your electricity, your gas, all your luxuries. Is a mobile phone a luxury? It's not really a luxury, is it? Once you've got rid of all those, and your cost of food, we forgot cost of food, you've got to pay rent. And what's left from your salary, you're expected to have some disposable income and save some of it towards a deposit to pay for a house. So a lot of people are trapped in this cycle if they rent, because rent can be astronomical.
It's got very expensive, isn't it, rent? Yeah. So yes, and it's particularly, well, it's very bad for young people who, you know, might have a fantastic job, not earning lots of money, but they want to get on the property ladder. In other words, they want to buy a house and start, you know, moving up bigger houses throughout their lives, that sort of thing. It's very hard to do that because, as you say, you have to save a lot of money for a deposit just to start buying a house. Yeah, and it tends to be around 5%, 10%. We did in the past, I don't know if they still do them, have 0% deposits, but that didn't go well for a memory. So yeah, it's all about this kind of, you know, the mortgage is the big one. So once you take out your mortgage, and of course you've got to get insurance as well. So when you have a mortgage, you have to get house insurance, I believe. You have to. And then, you know, that can be quite expensive. You've got your life insurance, should you wish. Then what about if you have a car? I mean, if you need
a car as well,
you've got to pay maybe a loan if you want to buy an expensive car, but you've also got to pay road tax to be able to drive the car on the road. You've got to have car insurance. And then every year you've got to have an MOT, which is like a check of your car to make sure it's safe and roadworthy. You have to pay for that. And then, of course, don't get me started about petrol, the fuel you put in the car, because, of course, particularly at the moment with what's going on, obviously, you know, in Iran there, the price of petrol, that has shot up. And so it makes driving around very expensive.
Yes. And a lot of people are flipping to electric because it's seen to be cheaper. But again, if you get an electric car, you have to pay for your energy bills. So, so yeah, I mean, there are a lot of bills, and every single one of them has pretty much gone up.
Yes, I think that's fair to say. They've all gone up. They never go down. And the big problem is if the amount you earn from work doesn't go up as much, then, you know, it can be a real problem. This is why we are in a cost of living crisis, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, people talk about this, and I mean, we've talked enough about Brexit and things like this just recently to highlight that had a massive impact on the cost of living as it is now. Food has definitely gone up, and I think we sometimes, I mean, it's more of an economic term, but we talk about purchasing power, how much our money can buy. And I feel like my money doesn't go as far. That's the thing as well. You know, recently we went on holiday, only a little trip. I was like, oh my goodness. And suddenly you start to really sort of think, can I afford it? So affordability is how financially accessible something is.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you say eating out, for example, the cost of eating out has gone up. Of course, the restaurants, their costs have gone up as well, which is why it's costing
Yeah.
more to eat out. It's kind of this cycle you get in, isn't it? You know, that
Yeah.
costs more, or that costs more, that costs more. You know, and everybody's affected.
Well, I always say a lot of these kind of, we're not going to talk too much about politics, but a lot of these kind of populist parties exist when people are generally unhappy. And then what kind of happens is people go, yeah, I want more money, fix the economy, honestly. And I do think that everybody just chills out a bit more. As soon as people feel like they've got money and they feel like they're living their best lives, and then people stop. But there is quite an obvious example of economic downturn, which is a period of reduced economic activity.
Yes.
Is it going to get what are your I brought you here today as a financial expert to tell me what is your solution?
Well, I don't know, because I think the future looks quite bleak, which is kind of depressing, isn't it?
Well,
At the
this
moment.
ironically enough, we're soon going to record another podcast about Titanic, and I thought that was going to be the negative one. This just turned into a real cheery conversation. But the thing is, I mean, there are some things you can do to,
Oh yes, I mean, you can make savings, can't you? You can make cuts, go without certain things to save money. There's lots of advice online about how you can change your bank account or your savings account to earn more interest somewhere else. For example, you can shop around for a good deal with your electricity company and get a better deal. Those sort of things you can do, can't you? You could drive a smaller car, for example. Those sort of things you could do.
Or walk. No,
or walk. Indeed, yeah.
But this is the thing. So when we're talking about energy tariffs, which is pricing plans offered by energy suppliers, it might be cheaper to get them both together, gas and electric, from the same company. It also might be cheaper to separate. You should really, what we say, shop around, which is really look. And a lot of these companies, not necessarily the energy companies, but your insurance in particular, you can kind of negotiate the price a little bit. Your mobile phone plans, your broadband plans, a lot of these sort of things, you can actually sort of negotiate. You might say, well, I've seen this price here. Recently, my home insurance came up for renewal. That was shocking, the first quote. So the first quote, naturally, it goes up. So if it's high already, it's going to get higher. They don't. Happy days, you've reduced. They don't do that automatically. So I called them up and I said,
even if you don't make a claim on an insurance, you think, I've not made any claims this year, so surely it's going to be cheaper next year. But no, the renewal comes through and the price has gone up for some reason.
We have a no claims bonus, especially on cars, don't we? And every year my bloody insurance goes up. I'm like, I haven't claimed. Why? Why is it going up? Surely you should be rewarding me. But this is the thing, and it's you call them up and you go, well, I've seen this price here. You've got to have you should really get a real quote, because if you go, I've seen this price for quarter of the price, they might just say, well, take it then.
I know.
But they try to do certain things. I mean, so my home insurance quote came through, and I called them up and I was like, look, I'm not happy with this quote. I don't mean to be funny, but this is nearly 3 times the price of what I've paid 2 years ago. And they were like, well, let's see what we can do. And they were like, do you really need this? And I was like, well, no, I don't have a bicycle for one. So why have I got cycling insurance cover? And gradually, slowly but surely, the price can come down. And they can also find ways to make things a bit cheaper if you pay annually instead of monthly. So there are some things you can do with those sort of and mobile phones and broadband. I find you've got a bit more liberty because they want to keep your customer.
Yes, no, definitely. Although it does all take a little bit of effort, doesn't it? The phone companies don't ring you up, do they, and say, "Oh,
no,
would you like some money off your bill?" It all takes a bit of negotiation, doesn't it? But yeah, you can make savings, but I still don't think you can make huge savings like you're saving
not that way.
Pounds. It's still, tricky, isn't it? It is tricky, and therefore you might cut down on what you buy in the supermarket. Either you could buy less food or cheaper products, or start going vegetarian so you don't have to pay for expensive meat. These sort of changes, lifestyle changes you can make.
Yeah, and I think there are other things as well you can do. I mean, start cooking at home more is one that a lot of people have done. But also buying things that are closer to the end of their use by date or sell by date. So they have dates, expiry dates on the products, and if they're on their last day, you might find some real bargains in the supermarket that you can then take home and cook that day, or potentially freeze. I'm not a health and safety expert on food, so I'm not going to say to freeze it. But for a lot of people, the prices have skyrocketed.
Yeah, good word. Skyrocketed.
Thanks.
Yeah, shot
Go
up
very rapidly.
Definitely.
Shot up.
Yeah, I know. I think it affects everybody. Even going out for a cup of coffee, there's a good example. I mean, for a start, if you go out to a coffee shop now, the price of a cappuccino or something has doubled, I think, just in a few years, isn't it? You could be paying up to about £4 for a cappuccino in a coffee shop. So what you can do is either not go to a coffee shop, but then that's a bit dull, isn't it? If you can't go out with your friends and have a coffee. So what can you do? You can either go to a cheaper coffee shop, of course. Sometimes you can get like a subscription where you can get kind of cheaper coffees if you're loyal to a shop, something like that.
Which is very cool, I think.
Yeah. So there are ways around it, but you don't want to cut out all the pleasures in life, do you?
No. I think if you remove coffee from your life, you probably remove about 72% of all happiness that you have.
That's right.
But this is something. But I think in general, we talk about these sort of things, the cost of living. I think in some ways it's affecting so many people, and we need to be very mindful of that. But generally, when people hear that the economy is struggling, that prices are going up, that's when people get really sort of angry and bitter. And I can see a lot of that in the UK, and I can understand that people don't understand why things are changing like that. Of course, we need to talk about the housing market as well. First of all, it's out of reach. In other words, people can't afford things for many people. But house prices, they keep going up.
Yeah, that's
occasionally
right.
they dip, but my goodness, overall the trend is just increasing. So for some people, that if you don't buy it now, that property is getting further and further away. It's further out of reach for a lot of people.
That's right. And the other thing, of course, it's really boring, but thinking about pensions, you're supposed to start putting money away for your pension for when you retire later in life. But of course, if you haven't got much income now, you can't put any money aside for the future. So when do you ever start saving for the future? It's really, really tricky, isn't it? And of course, one extreme end, when you literally have got no money, you can't afford to buy food and things like that. I mean, that's a really serious situation you're in. We have a number of food banks, don't we, around where people can go and get free food that people have donated. And that's the number of people going to food banks has increased, isn't it, because of this situation?
Which is terrifying to see. It's really sad to see. And people also talk about, we have the minimum wage. That's a thing that a lot of people are discussing at the moment, because minimum wage, the issue with minimum wage always is if they put minimum wage up 10%, the same day bread will go up 10%.
Yeah.
So nobody's winning. So supermarkets will increase the because as well, 5%, 10% increase in minimum wage for a supermarket chain with hundreds, if not thousands, of employees is a huge hit. So if it increases £1 and they've got, I don't know, 1 million employees, suddenly they're going to find another £1 million a month. £1 million an hour, 100,000. I don't know how many employees these people have got, but if they've got £100,000, 100,000 employees, that's £100,000 an hour they need to find. So they need to find that money from elsewhere. So we also talk about the living wage, don't we? Which is a sort of recommended income sufficient to maintain a reasonable standard of living, and that tends to be higher than minimum wage.
Yes, not everybody's on it. No, you're right. But that's what we should be getting, Basically, I think we all want life to be better. We want to be better off. The expression, to be better off, have more money. That's our kind of goal, isn't it? But of course, doesn't quite go like that. And it's worth mentioning, it's not just, as we've said, it's not just a UK problem. It happens around the world, but we're affected by global events as well, aren't we? We can't always keep control of our economy because outside factors affect it. Wars and things like that. We can't control it.
So I mean, a lot of times people talk about like 40% of their wage is taken up by rent. That's another thing. It can be even more than that. But you're right. You're right. That people in the UK. I was just going to talk about the bills. People across the world are being affected by this, and you're right. But the general idea, the general bills that people have, you have your mortgage if you're buying a house, your rent, which can be more than your mortgage, which takes up probably around 50% of a lot of people's salaries. Then you have your council tax, which pays for your local things. That's an unavoidable tax. You have your energy and your gas, which you can, your gas, electric, which you can reduce somewhat if you don't use it.
Turn
or you
the
have
heating
solar
down.
power. You have solar
Yes.
solar panels. That's the way.
Yeah.
But of course, that's the terrifying thing. The idea of people, particularly the elderly, not putting their heating on because they're scared of the bills over winter, which is, there's more to say about that, to be honest. And then your slight luxuries, well, not food, but food, and then your slight luxuries of mobile phones and broadband and cars and all that things. And for some people, cars are a necessity as well.
Yeah, especially if you live in the countryside. Yeah, even if you don't have a car, you've still got the cost of the train fares or the buses to get to places, assuming you're to leave home, and then of course there's all those streaming services you can or cannot have, your Netflix, Disney channels, all those things need paying for. A bit of a luxury, I agree, but things you can cut back on, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's that. Yeah, there are things, and I think we could do a whole nother podcast about the working at home idea, because working at home can save you a lot. It increases your bills, but it cuts out your travel costs. It cuts out your, and for a lot of people that could be a lifesaver, working from home. So
yeah.
And on that note, I want to say thank you very much, Rob, for joining me today to talk about this very serious topic. Actually, I
hope it wasn't too depressing.
No. I think I'm just going to go outside and go for a walk, because walking is free. But thank you very much for joining me today. If you like this kind of content, by the way, please do remember to like and subscribe to this channel, because we're here every week, every Friday, with more conversations, teaching you the real vocabulary. And by the way, I wanted to say, if you have any direct questions that you would like me to discuss with Rob, any questions, we're going to do a whole podcast episode based on your questions answered. So put them down in the comments. Let us know what you'd like to know. If you have a burning question, let us know. But Rob, thank you very much for joining me.
You're welcome.
Everybody out there, thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one, Rob.
You will. Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.